Hey everyone, this is Stephen McAnulla with The Art of Photography. Today we're going to learn frequency separation, as if you haven't seen enough of these tutorials already. Okay, for those of you who don't know what frequency separation is, that is when you are editing a portrait and you want to retain the detail on the skin but still remove the flaws like blemishes of acne or maybe rings under the eyes, little wrinkles, things like that. So it's a better way of editing than using the healing brush alone or the spot removal tool. And so we're going to go ahead and dive into that right now, and I will show you how simple it is to get awesome looking portraits.
Okay, so we're going to do the frequency separation now here on our model. And this is a photo I took about a year ago, but I had intended on using it at some point in a composite photo. And so we might as well do the skin treatment now and we'll see what happens. Maybe I'll do another tutorial with this image and show you some more compositing techniques. But for right now, we're just going to focus on cleaning up the skin. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in at 100%. And I'm really only going to be focused on her face at the moment. We may go further with it if time allows, but we'll start here. So the first thing you do when you do frequency separation is the layer that you have. We've got our subject layer. I'm going to hit Command J twice. That's going to duplicate my layer. And this one here, I'm just going to call it soft. And this one I'm going to call texture. And the reason I do that is we're going to actually be combining these two layers to get the separation effect, the frequency separation. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off my texture layer, and I'm going to go to my soft layer, go up here to filter, and we're going to go to noise and dust and scratches. And this is not the only way you can do this. You can use dust and scratches, or you can use Gaussian blur. I've gotten really good effects with both of them. Dust and scratches tends to smooth out the complexion a little bit better. I like using it. You don't want to make things bleed too hard, like the eyes bleeding way into the cheeks. Like if I was to pull it clear over here in a second, when that renders, you're going to see it turns her almost into like a really bad oil painting. So we don't want that. We don't want to lose that much detail. What we do want to do is see these skin tones blend fairly softly together. And I think that works for my taste, at least for this tutorial. It might not be perfect. I would probably spend more time tweaking that. Okay, so we're done, right? No, we are not done. We're going to turn on our texture layer. This part is where we combine the texture and the soft layer, and they work kind of in unison with each other, kind of a symphony of editing. So we'll go up to Image and hit Apply Image. And since we labeled these texture and soft, we want to go to the layer that is already chosen, which is soft. And we're going to tell it to subtract. It's already set for that because I've done this before. And the scale, you almost always, I think, leave it at 2 and 128. I haven't experimented with this, but it seems to be the magic numbers, and it comes up by default. So everything else, leave it the way it is. And you want this should be the only layer that's even available right there, and then red, the RGB, and then just go up here and hit OK. And it doesn't look right yet, but when we hit our blending mode to linear light, now we're back in business. And I'm going to group these two layers to show you what happened. Watch what happens when I turn this off. Nothing. And that's exactly what we want. I know that sounds crazy, but here's the reason why. Now, when we go in here, we're going to take our spot healing brush and we're going to just remove some of these imperfections. I'm going to make my brush just a little bit bigger. And you see where this little dot is here? Since we're using the spot healing brush, not the regular healing brush, and good thing I looked over here because that's the one I need to select right there. So we click on this little skin area near here, and we can just... And I'm doing this by holding down my Option key to select the area I want to basically use. Now see this hair right here? Watch this. This is like magic. I can just take hair away and still maintain the texture of the image. because this top layer, it is not sampling colors. It is just simply sampling the texture that is on this skin. Now, to speed this process up even more, to get the imperfections quicker, you can go over here to an adjustment layer, and I like to choose, choose the wrong one there. We'll choose black and white, and then I'll hit levels, and I'm going to crank the contrast on this. And I'll bring up my whites. We'll crank this even more. And this really makes the skin look rough. And the models, you know, as Joel Grimes says, do not want to see this, so never show them that. So this is going to help me identify the imperfections a little easier. And so I'm just going in and taking out the major rough spots, and I'm not going to do all of these for the sake of the tutorial. I want to keep these nice and short and to the point. I think once the lesson is learned, that's the important part. So I'm just going in here, just really quickly picking textures near what I want to fix. Lots of clicking and sampling, but it all pays off. There's even one there in the eye area, and a little tiny one there. Okay, now I think for the sake of the tutorial, we're pretty close. We do it just a couple more obvious ones. Okay, so now when I take off these layers, I'm going to take the before and after. This is the after. Here's the before, and we can see all of our, like the hair and the little spots and things like that. When I go like this, that's all gone, but we still maintained our skin texture, so things look a lot better. I do see a spot down here on the chin, which is easily fixed. I just stay on the texture mode, use my spot healing brush, just pick a texture from somewhere similar, and I'll just kind of smooth that out. That makes that look a little bit better. Now here's the next trick. We go over here to our soft layer, and you don't also want, you know, every little dot gone, because then it wouldn't even look like a real human face, other than maybe this little spot right here. You want to still make it look believable. So, you know, you want little creases and things like that. That's how people's faces are, and you put anybody under a microscope and you're going to see little things like that. So now on the soft layer, we're going to take our lasso tool, and I usually have a feathering of about 20, and there's some areas here where I would like to even out the skin tones. Okay, so just to check and make sure the feathering's good, you hit Q. Make sure you're not running into the body jewelry or the nose. I'm getting a little close to the nose, so what I can do is I can hold down my Option key and get this little minus sign, and I can just shave away a little bit of that. And then when I hit Q, I'm not in danger of hitting that nose. And the eye, I feel like I'm just a hair close on the eye, so I'm going to do the same thing there. I'm just going to shave away a little bit. Not much. And then you can hold down Shift if you want to add an area. So I might add right there. Okay, so now what we do, instead of going to the noise, dust, and scratches, we're going to go into Gaussian Blur. This will help us even this area out even more. So we're going to start low and then just bring it up until we see the result that we want. If you go too far, you can see it creates a shadow. So you kind of want to just back away from that and then preview it and see if you see a difference. And that's still a little shadowed. It's kind of a juggle back and forth game here. That seems to even things out. So there's the after, there's the before. You can kind of see the splotchiness in the skin tones, and this just kind of smooths that out. So then I'll take another patch, And you want to do this in steps like this because the area that you're at might not need the same amount of blur as the other area did. If it does, great. Like this one here, maybe just a hair less so that we don't get any shadowing up here near the hairline. So when I preview it, it's just a real subtle change, but when they're all done, it makes a big difference. So now we're going to take one here, and since I'm close to this hairline, I'll have to be careful. I'm using Gaussian Blur, and I've got a keyboard shortcut for that. Just Shift, Command, and B is what I've got set up. You can always customize your own shortcuts that feel most comfortable to you. So I'm going to bring this down. I'm going to bring it up till I see that shadow, and then I'm going to bring it back so that I retain that highlight. And I'm going to preview it, and it just kind of barely makes a difference there. It won't always do a really amazing job. So let's go in here to the eyes and see what we can do. And we'll do both eyes. I'm going to hit Shift, and this one will probably be pretty subtle as well. We'll just soften this up a little bit. If you go too much, you get the shadows. So let's preview it, see if it's worth doing. I think it is. And then on the chin area, you see how it's kind of just a little bit of bumpy, a little bit of dimply here. So wherever that area is, kind of circle around it. Hit Control B or Control Shift B if that's your shortcut. Get to Gaussian Blur again here and just kind of work it until you see the chin look the way you want it. I think about right there. See the difference between that when there's the before, there's the after. Okay, so we've gotten most of the areas as far as skin tones evened out, I think. So we're going to turn on our black and white layer again now and see if there's any other textures that bug us real quick. You kind of go back and forth between these two techniques. So now I'm just going to use my spot healing brush, take care of a few more little areas, and this is just sampling texture again. So even though we were working on the blur layer before, it's not hurting what we're doing now. These two work in concert together, but they also work individually. So we're getting pretty good looking skin here, and it's still believable. Okay, I'm not going to do the whole thing here. I still see lots of little things. I would spend quite a bit more time on this, but I think you get the idea here. So let's go ahead and turn these off, and we'll do a before and after. So here's before. Take a look at it nice and close. Here's after. Still remain, or the texture still remains in here real nicely, but it looks cleaned up. One more time. Now, as a bonus trick, I'm going to show you this. Spot healing works everywhere on skin, obviously, so I can just go in here, take that little spot there, take that little spot there, and you can leave some of those things if you want to. But like also right here where I see kind of the red and the other tones mixing together, I might just soften that up a little bit. We'll just bring it up with Gaussian Blur a little bit. If Gaussian Blur is not doing it, since I didn't apply that dust and scratches there, we can go to dust and scratches first and see if that gives us a better result. So we'll kind of pull this in until we see what we like. And the only reason I'm not liking this is because it's affecting her arm there. So we'll probably go with the Gaussian Blur. And we'll crank it up as far as we can get away with without the shadow, of course. Let's preview that. There, that helps out a little bit. And then if there was a few little imperfections, you can just go in there and kind of clean those up. So on the before and after on that, you can see that made a big difference there. But what I really wanted to show you, I was working my way down to the clothing here. On the texture, this is awesome because clothing has texture, but you wouldn't think that the same settings for skin would work on here, but watch this. It just repairs clothing perfectly. So you can get out all these little knots if you don't want them. You don't have to get everything out, but the ones that are really obvious, which these kind of little things happen after you wash something and dry it, a couple of times, you start getting these little spots in your clothing. And You don't have to remove every one, but the really obnoxious ones, just go in there and zap them out of there. Like here, we've got a fuzzy, a little hair. I can get rid of all of that just by going over this, picking a similar area, and it's gone. And it doesn't look blurry. The texture is intact. Look at that. So, before and after on the clothing. Spots all around here. Now watch them disappear. Just like magic. Now when we zoom out, since this is not a portrait where it's a huge close-up, you might not notice a huge difference, but if I turn this off, you can still see the difference even from this far away. Watch when I turn it back on. Just smooths things out a little bit. And if I zoom in even just a little bit and do the same thing, there's quite a difference. I prefer this. So this is what I would do in a composite, get everything clean and perfect before I went in and started cutting her out. I don't always do it that way, but it's just good to see if you're going to have the picture that you want to work with and if everything's going to, work out fine in the end. I feel pretty good about that as a tutorial. So if you have any other questions, feel free to put them in the comment section. I'll be happy to answer those. And also, if you have any suggestions for future tutorials or you just, want to make a comment, please. I love to interact with my fans, and it'll help this channel grow because I want to be teaching techniques that you want to know how to do. And I know there's a lot of frequency separation tutorials out there, but we all have our own little tweaks that we add to that and our own style. And so this is kind of my favorite approach.
Well, I hope you learned something from this tutorial. Frequency separation is not that hard, as you can see, and it makes for awesome portraits. My name is Stephen McAnulla. This is The Art of Photography. Don't forget to check me out on Twitter, Facebook, 500px, my official website. All this information is down below in the link section. And also, since I'm now an affiliate for MacFun Software, if you want to go to their website, check out their software, and if you see something you want, because they've got a whole range of photography editing programs that are going to make your life easier and more creative, 10% off if you used my discount code that's listed below. It'll just be Stephen M when you go to the checkout. Put that in, automatically takes 10% off your order, the entire order. I'll see you next time.